We're streaming live. I'm going to read the statement first before we salute the flag. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams,
Here.
Ms. Wright,
Here.
Mr. DeLuca,
Here.
Mr. McGehee, Mayor Daffis.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Thank you, Township Clerk Fritzen. Please join us in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Friends and neighbors, welcome to our November 1st Township Committee meeting. As you can see, we are still meeting in virtual format. Thank you for making the time and being with us this evening. We're going to start our meeting this evening, as we always do, with boards and committees appointments. We live in a very engaged community, and we're very proud of that and inspired by that. And again, this evening, we have residents who are looking to step up to serve the community, and we're really, really excited to appoint them this evening. We have an appointment to the Environmental Advisory Committee, which will be done by my colleague, Committee Member Adams. And we have 2 appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which I will do. Then we will go into our first public comment period of 2 this evening. The first period is for agenda items only. Then we will segue into our Board of Health meeting. Every first meeting of every month is our Board of Health meeting. Then we will introduce a couple of new ordinances. The first one reduces the distance within Maplewood Village Special Improvement District between cannabis micro businesses, any 2 cannabis micro businesses, to 100 feet as measured from the primary entrance of each business. The second ordinance we're introducing this evening will provide the township with health enforcement power over public recreational bathing facilities in the township. This is our adopting state code and giving us some teeth in enforcement. This will give us enforcement jurisdiction over, obviously we already have jurisdiction over our community pool, but also the pool at the country club, the pool at the top, the pool at the Maplewood Plaza condos, and the pool at Winchester Gardens. This does not give us jurisdiction over private pools at private residences, just to be clear. Someone has asked that question. It's a good question. Then we have another introduction of a new ordinance revising our zoning map. We are required to update our zoning map from time to time. It's been a long time since we've updated ours, and that's what we're doing with this ordinance. Reports from departments this evening. We do not have a report from our CFO, Mr. Koloje. We merely have, as published in our agenda for tonight, a report for September of our budget and where we are. And thankfully, we are in a good place. We adopted our budget a little bit late this year, as we previously discussed, but spending is looking good. It's actually below our estimates from department to department. So that's going to set us up in a good place, we hope, for our 2023 budget. Then we will segue into administrative reports. We'll start with Interim Administrator Schuster. Then we will hear from Township Attorney Desiderio. And then we will end with Township Clerk Fritzen. Reports from elected officials. The lineup tonight is Committee Member Adams. Committee Member Mr. McGehee is not with us this evening due to work overseas, and he's in a different time zone, so he could not be with us. Deputy Mayor DeLuca, Committee Member Kripe, and I always go last. We have no discussion items, and that will move us straight into the adoption of our consent agenda. You might have noticed a couple resolutions that affect recycling. Committee Member Adams, who's been a leader in this regard, will cover that in her report prior. And then we will have our second public comment for any subject matter. And then we will adjourn. And hopefully, fingers crossed, every time I do this, gets me in trouble, we will finish by 9:30. All right, so before we get started, please join me and all of us in an important moment of silence in honor of our dearly departed Police Chief, Jimmy Duvall. We lost Jimmy last week. We memorialized and celebrated his life in a beautiful and fitting tribute on Friday. And our thoughts and prayers remain with him and his entire family as they deal with their grief. May his memory be a blessing. Thank you. All right, so boards and committees. I think we have an appointment to the Environmental Advisory Committee. Committee Member Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think Alanya Friedman is with us tonight. Maybe if you, I don't want to, if you could, oh, there you are. Hi. Typically the Environmental Advisory Committee, and I see our longstanding chair of Environmental Advisory, Bob McCoy, is here also to welcome you formally. Alanya is a Columbia High School sophomore, junior?
Sophomore, yeah.
Sophomore, I thought so. Okay. And she's very involved in the high school environmental club, appropriately. She gave a statement at our meeting to advocate for the gas-powered leaf blower ban in Maplewood. She's been a Girl Scout. And Alanya, I'm going to ask you to tell the Township Committee a little bit about yourself, but before we formally just vote to appoint or not. So here's your chance to sell yourself.
Hi, thank you so much. It's really, really nice to meet you all. As you said, I am a sophomore at Columbia High School and I'm currently 15 years old. I really am passionate about the environment and I'm really excited about this opportunity to be on the committee. I think it's a really great way to have like a direct impact on our community and to really help improve our environment, which is something that I absolutely love. So thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Alanya. So Mayor, I wholeheartedly am excited to welcome Alanya, and also because she's a sophomore, she might stay on the Environmental Advisory Committee for longer than high school students typically do, because sometimes they're only a year or so. So I would move her appointment to the Environmental Advisory Committee and ask my colleagues to vote in support of the same.
I second your motion, Ms. Adams.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. Luca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Alanya, thank you. Thank you for stepping up. We need more youth voices. Congratulations. We look forward to working with you. You've been incredible already. And now we get to work even more closely together.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to work with you all.
Cool. Thank you, Mayor. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Committee Member Adams. I love seeing more youth incorporated into our process and having their voices influence our decisions. We need more of that, please. Okay, so next we have two prospective appointments to the Zoning Board, the Board of Adjustment, the Zoning Board. With us this evening, I believe they've been converted over. We have Mr. James Fant and we have Mr. Sean Conrad. Mr. Fant, would you kindly unmute, introduce yourself, and talk about why you're interested in joining the zoning board?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. My name's James Fant. I live on Claremont Drive with my wife, Laura, and my two boys, Leo and Ethan, 4 and 2. We moved to Maplewood from Jersey City 4 years ago. And now that the boys are a little bit older, I thought this would be a great way to get involved in the community and serve. I am a partner at a law firm called Hardin, Cunliffe, McKeon, and Paletto, with offices right on the other side of Milburn in Springfield, New Jersey. Part of my practice, it's not a huge part of my practice, is land use. I have appeared before boards in other matters, so I'm familiar with the process and happy to bring that perspective as a member of the zoning board of Maplewood. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to get involved and to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Fant. We appreciate it. Welcome. And it's nice to see a face to the voice that I've spoken to on the phone, and hope to see you in the community. And we're really, really excited about your stepping up to volunteer and serve the public in this manner. I move that you be appointed onto our Board of Adjustment into the regular member seat. It's a 4-year term. That is currently going to expire at 12/31/2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, although ages 4 and 2 are not really old kids, but this is, so yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen, and thank you again, James. Welcome aboard. We also have Mr. Conrad, Sean Conrad. Mr. Conrad, if you're with us as an attendee here, as a panelist rather, would you kindly unmute yourself and introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in being appointed onto the zoning board?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My children are 9 and 11, which is a little older. My wife and I moved to Maplewood in, I think, 2015. My children, went to the Y, and now they're at Delia Bolden and Maplewood Middle School. My wife's the president of the Delia Bolden PTA, and she was making fun of me for not serving the community as much as she does. So my neighbor is on the zoning board and mentioned it to me as an opportunity, mentioned how, it's important that there's enough people there to have a quorum so that my, fellow people in the community can get a vote when they appear. I'm currently in software and run a software consulting business, but I grew up in construction and doing construction procurement. I also do a lot of home improvements myself. So it seemed like a great way to give a little bit back. So I really welcome the opportunity.
Thank you, Sean. And we welcome you. Thank you for, rolling up your sleeves to do a little bit more and serve the community directly like this and listening to your neighbor. You're being a good neighbor. So with that, I move formally that Sean Conrad be appointed onto the Board of Adjustment in Maplewood to serve as alternate member number 1, a 2-year term to expire 12/31/2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And thank you again, gentlemen. Welcome aboard again, and you're welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to attend to family and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks again. This brings us to our, Good evening. This brings us to our first public comment session for agenda items only. Mr. Waltz, I turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Township Committee. We will now begin the first public comment portion of the meeting on agenda items only. If any meeting attendee would like to address the Township Committee, please use the raise your hand function. We will convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak. Would anybody like to address the committee at this time? I see no one there.
Okay, that was easy. Maybe they'll get inspired with the second public comment period at the end. Thank you, Mr. Waltz. At this point, we will close the first public comment period. And just to make sure, I'm taking a quick look here at our attendees and panelists to ensure that our county liaison is not with us, because I always offer our county liaison an opportunity. I don't see them this time. Okay, this brings us to our Board of Health meeting. As previously mentioned, Board of Health Chair, Committee Member McGehee is not with us this evening due to work travel overseas. So I'm going to step in. I was the former chair of the Board of Health, so I think I'm a little bit familiar with how it's done. So then, pursuant to section 5, chapter 231, public law 1975. This is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams,
Here.
Ms. Cripe,
Here.
Mayor Daffis,
Here.
Mr. DeLuca,
Here.
Mr. McGehee. Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and whereas desired the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health, the Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, those limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
Okay.
Second.
third, fourth.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Ms. Adams and I tend to be the quickest, right? Always the first. Almost speak with one voice. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to our health officer, Candace Davenport, who will introduce our local health outreach coordinator, Talia Jeffers, who has a presentation for us this evening. Health Officer Davenport.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 3rd?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
So, Ms. Adams,
yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Thank you. I will share my screen now. Can everyone see the screen? Okay.
Not yet. I just see that you're sharing. There it is.
Oh, good. Okay. All righty. So I'm just going to move this down here so you can see it. And Talia Jeffers is our local health outreach coordinator, formerly known as our vulnerable populations outreach coordinator. Due to the grant, they've updated the name, and I'll let her speak on an update of our strengthening local public health capacity grant.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Daffis, Township Committee members. Again, my name is Talia Jeffers, and I am the local health outreach coordinator. Again, just want to give an update. So the first slide we're going to talk about are the 2021 priority areas that we focused on in our year one. So identifying vulnerable populations, we committed to 3 focus groups to get their perspectives on getting vaccinated, what their fears were around the COVID-19 vaccine, as well as miscommunication with getting that information to them. We also did a COVID-19 vaccination canvassing campaign where the township committee members also participated in that community event to spread the word about the new Essex County COVID-19 vaccination sites. So that was very exciting. We were able to get a lot of volunteers for that event. We did a homebound vaccination program, and we still have that program ongoing to this very day. Another focus of ours was the community resource guide development, where we also connected to residents to food, COVID kits, and other resources to COVID positive residents. And one of our biggest accomplishments from year 1 was being able to maintain a growing list of vulnerable residents. So those residents were acquired by either self-identification as caregivers of family members or friends, seniors, those who are homebound or having a disability, and therefore experienced a vulnerable period in their life. So we were able to maintain that list again to this day, and connect them to services as they need. Next slide. So again, the initial focus was completely COVID specific. And now being that we're in year 2, 3 of the grant, that has expanded. So I am providing you with data from the last 6 months. So from June to November 2022, we received 93 public inquiries, which are phone calls that we received from residents looking for all of these different social services. These services are numbers of residents, again, who called, and we connected them to local, county, and state resources. The highest, I believe August was the month that we received the highest. I believe it was almost 22 that month, and that was regarding landlord-tenant issues, and then us connecting them to rental assistance programs. These referrals were also made directly to the local health department. So they called us directly. We did not have to go through the ComCare system, which I was using previously, where I would have to log into a state system and then receive the residents who are in need. Now they're identifying the health department as a trusted source and contacting us directly to get these resources. And just a note for the crisis intervention resource that was connected, again, those were acquired by walk-in and or phone inquiries to local mental health associations. Next slide. So again, the data is from June to November 2022. And these are the number of screenings and services provided through the health department, which were 89. Again, local resources from our newly hired crisis intervention specialists, as well as our hospital equipment loan program, which we received donations of hospital equipment from residents, organizations that are new or lightly used that we loan out to residents for however long they need them. And they do not necessarily have to be a Maplewood resident to receive these hospital equipment. So they can be from neighboring towns. If you need a cane, a wheelchair, whatever it is, if we have it in stock, we are happily to lend it out to you guys for however long you may need them. And it does have the contact information. So when they are not in that need anymore, they can call us up and they can either drop it off or we'll pick it up for special cases. And then as you can see, the largest number on this graph is for the crisis intervention social services provided. And these were the co-responses with the Maplewood Police Department on calls that require a social worker's expertise. Another one was the Braven Health screenings. I just want to point out that we made this contact in partnership 2 years ago, and they have been a sound partnership in providing health screenings locally in Maplewood. We have done them for the last 6 months at the senior center at DeHart Community Center. They've been there for at least 2 hours providing health screenings for free. And then also they connect residents to referral services just in case they need that extra push to get to a doctor and or understand what their numbers mean. Next slide. For vaccinations administered, 99. And these numbers come from just from August up until now. So the vaccinations are provided directly by the Township of Maplewood, our public health nurse, Anna Markarova. Greatest accomplishment for year 2 so far is being able, so through the grant, the Strengthening Public Health Capacity Grant, the Maplewood Health Department was able to register as a COVID-19 vaccine provider for adults only, so 18 years or older. We order and keep in stock Moderna bivalent boosters to vaccinate homebound residents, township employees, and general residents. In order for us to have become a COVID-19 vaccine provider, we had to complete various trainings and sign off on a provider service agreement with the state. Perfect timing because the local site for the COVID vaccinations, the Sears location, just closed this Saturday, October 29th. So again, with the Maplewood Health Department becoming a sound provider to close that gap for local residents to receive the COVID-19 booster, I think that's the greatest thing that could have come out of this partnership, this agreement with the state, as well as this grant. We are currently hosting 2 booster clinics. The first one is coming up this Friday, November 4th, from 4 to 7 p.m. The second one we will be hosting December 3rd, 11 to 2 p.m. and registration is required for both events, just so we know how many vaccines we expect to administer. So again, these numbers, you see the flu vaccine, we were able to vaccinate over 70 residents and township employees. The numbers for the booster clinics, they will expand and they will grow, being that we have this providership with the state and that we are providing this service with these 2 upcoming booster clinics. So these numbers give us another 6 months, maybe another 2 months. They will either hit the same number as the flu vaccines or reach higher. Next slide. So yes, also through the grant, we are now able to provide community input opportunities. And again, the sound promotion from the Township Committee through the mayor have been able to promote these resources and these surveys to the public. And we've received a lot of great responses. And through these surveys, it helps us identify the needs of the Maplewood residents, because assessments are needed in order for us to tailor our resources that we need to provide residents with and promote them directly to the community and stakeholders. So for example, I will highlight 4 things that touched the surface for the Sustainable Jersey survey. The first one was increase in reliable transportation. So again, that was specific to seniors, providing food insecurity, especially in emergencies. So just in case a person is in a bind this month, they cannot afford groceries, and or a person is COVID positive, where can they go locally in Maplewood to receive food, little to no cost and or for free? So that's another one. The third one was affordable housing for seniors. If we go back on one of those graphs in the beginning, we did have a lot of housing inquiries, Section 8 inquiries, inquiries for senior-specific housing. And lastly was the mental health aspect of things, of finding local resources for mental health. Another survey I would like to touch on is the Essex County Community Needs Assessment. Some findings were lack of motivation to participate in physical activity, lack of mental health resources, again, the second time this is coming up, and then having consistent physical activity programs offered at free or minimum cost. So we take all of these findings and continuously make partnerships locally at a county level and or state level in order to close that gap and provide services residents are looking for. So another example of how we tie everything together was our first ever health fair that we just did in September, that was a working partnership for the last 2 years of various organizations, all able to provide services throughout COVID and just showcase what they are able to do for residents while they're in their vulnerability and or coming out of that vulnerability. So we definitely want to build on that for next year. Next slide. And this is perfect timing because, again, coming from the surveys, like I said previously, we're able to tailor the resources that we find for residents. And this is just a small list of resources and outreach topics that we provide to the community. We provide them in a weekly newsletter sent out by the health department. We also contribute to the Township Weekly newsletter as another avenue to spread messages. We speak to the public and we always encourage them to either sign up for our weekly report, sign up for the Township weekly updates, because this information is important. Either they may need it, their neighbor may need it, but it's always great to always promote and be aware of what services and what other organizations are doing what. That way everyone can stay abreast on the services being offered. Next slide. Okay, and then the expanded first focus for 2022 to 2023. Again, going off of those surveys, identifying reliable food resources and transportation resources in Maplewood. So I'm currently working on the schedule for volunteers to donate to the community fridge located on Springfield Avenue and Indiana Street. I've been there almost 3 times within the last week, and we have to revamp our way that we approach the community fridge. We have to look at it in a positive light. I've seen nothing but positivity, whether it's people dropping off food, donating food, and those actually taking what they need and leaving food for others. We may have the small, instances where people are taking more than they need, but then again, with the Maplewood Health Department, the township being hands-on this project, we are able to connect the services, whether that is mental health services, other social services. We want to be there and we want to build on this location being a resource center. So definitely very happy to take that on. The second expanded focus, we will increase identification of the health department as a vaccine service provider for COVID-19 boosters, again, and that is to address the lapse in providership from the county closing this past Saturday. So we will be hosting those COVID-19 booster clinics to the public. And lastly, I am definitely open to suggestions and identifying strategic ways to promote and notify residents about township events and services. So promotion is the way that we get these services to the community and to our stakeholders. So township committee members, mayor, if you have any suggestions on how to better do that, how we can communicate with our residents. You've been a great resource in using your platform to promote the programs we've done in the past. So I definitely would like to continue that. And then lastly, just continues to build on the partnerships and identifying small businesses and community-based organizations because they are doing great work. And we want to identify who they are so we can promote those services as well, especially if they're locally based in Maplewood. So again, thank you for your time and your continued support in promoting our services and health-related events. Next slide. Yep, and here's my contact information, my email address, and definitely if anyone is interested in signing up for our newsletter, if you guys have any input on how we can better communicate our events or resources to the public, what day, what time would best location to put up flyers, please email the health department at maplewoodnj.gov. Thank you.
Coordinator Jeffers, I just want to thank you for that presentation. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. That's really measurable, direct impact into the community. Your pie charts are really attractive, but they really show direct impact from our programs and services and your efforts in particular. into assisting the vulnerabilities in our community, identifying them and assisting them. So thank you very, very much for that. Before we let you go and we move over to Health Officer Davenport for her report, are there any questions for Coordinator Jeffers from my colleagues? Okay, I don't see any. So thank you again. Health Officer Davenport, back to you.
Okay, thank you. And thanks, Talia. I'm going to ask Talia to stay in case there's any public comment after the Board of Health. But let me share my screen again. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Based on what Talia was mentioning, a lot of the things that we're doing is outreach to the community. So conducting the breast cancer awareness scarf and hat drive throughout the month of October, the township had a box in the middle of the rotunda area for donations, and we received so many donations. We have like an entire huge box and bin of scarves and hats for people who are undergoing breast cancer treatment to have on behalf of the township, and we're sharing those with St. Michael's Hospital. Another thing, as Talia had mentioned, a lot of what we do is a team effort. Our grant funds 4 people, essentially, Talia Jeffers, Christy Macklin, Emily Espinal, and Anna Markarova. One of the things that Christy Macklin had put together is this great food resources in Maplewood South Orange Guide. We have this laminated and it's on the community fridge, so that if people are looking for more resources in the community, outside of the community fridge, here are the active locations that are going on. In addition, the Kiwanis Club will be handing out free food boxes. Our township is very familiar with the abundance that they provide, and that'll be on Saturday, November 12th, right down the street on Prospect Street at Our Lady of Sorrows from 11 to 12. They do request that reservations are made so that they can identify how many boxes they need. And if you would like to volunteer, I'm sure they would welcome a helping hand at kiwanishelps.org. One thing that we have to mention for the month of November, as we enter into November and December, state health insurance open enrollment starts now. So we strongly encourage anyone, again, it's no surprise why we'd be interested in people getting access to care through health coverage. We strongly encourage everyone to go to getcoverednj.org and sign up for health insurance. They have different types that fit your needs and your family's needs. So it's getcovered.nj, .gov. So that's getcovered.nj.gov. And for those who have to renew, please look in your mail where you'll be getting an application to renew your health insurance through the state. In addition, New Jersey Citizen Action has an educational fund that provides free Affordable Care Act education outreach and assistance services to help any resident understand and apply for affordable healthcare coverage. This is also done, again, for free, one-on-one consultations, both in English and in Spanish. This information will be on our township website as well, and with the website for New Jersey Citizen Action. But if you need it, it's njcitizenaction.org. Moving on to communicable and infectious diseases. This is the time of year where I again remind people to get a flu shot. I want to say that we are, in all seriousness, going into an uptick of respiratory infections, flu, COVID, and RSV being the 3 that I'll talk about this evening. As you can see from the state map here, the Northeast, which includes Essex County, is in moderate. So we are carefully monitoring the situation of flu and encourage everyone to get a flu shot. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is something you might have seen in the news recently. What it is it's a common respiratory virus similar to a cold. It produces mild cold-like symptoms and lasts about a week or 2. For most people, they'll recover quickly. However, for infants and older adults, RSV can be more serious and result in hospitalization. As a pediatric nurse, I have experience with this. Infants have an issue, or very young children, because their respiratory system is not fully developed yet. So when they come across this virus, it can have effects on their ability to breathe. RSV is the most common cause of bronchiolitis and pneumonia in children younger than 1 year of age in the United States. So to prevent RSV infections, as well as common colds, the flu, and COVID, these are the same mitigation strategies you should all be familiar with as we've touted for COVID, but it's all the same. Basic hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, keep your hands clean, hands off your face, stay home if you're sick, disinfect surfaces, and cover your coughs and sneezes. Moving on to COVID. What some people may not realize is that you can get a free at-home COVID-19 test if you have health insurance. You can go to your local pharmacy and ask them for it, and it might be covered under your health plan. If, however, you do not have health insurance, please contact the Maplewood Health Department at healthdepartment@maplewoodnj.gov, or you can call the town hall, and we can provide you and your family with free at-home COVID test kits provided through the State Health Department. As for our statistics in Maplewood, October, we saw 174 cases. And in the state, we are now approaching moderate in almost all of the counties. You'll see that we have an increase in the different subvariants. We have Omicron, BQ.1.1 and BQ.1. A lot of these green ones are new and emerging variants. Again, as I've mentioned before, COVID is a virus which will mutate in the community. So the best protection is to get vaccinated so that we can reduce the number of people who are unvaccinated and at risk. What I want to demonstrate here is the uptick in the community setting for COVID cases. So we are seeing an uptick of cases. I think we're seeing about 6 or 7 a day now on average, when we used to see about 3. So we are monitoring that as well. As was mentioned, October 29th was the last day for the Essex County COVID locations. However, I do want to make note of this year's mobile clinics that are available on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, as you'll see on the left side of the screen. From 3 to 7 p.m., the Essex County has a mobile van at various locations throughout the county, and you can go there for vaccines. Even for children ages 6 months to 5 years, they will do the Omicron vaccine, except they request that you make an appointment. Also, I do want to say for children 6 months to 5 years, here's some good notes for Maplewood. 24% of children ages 6 months to 2 years in Maplewood are fully vaccinated. That's really good news. And it's one of the highest rates of vaccination, complete vaccination in this age group throughout our county. 47% of 3 to 4 year olds in Maplewood are fully vaccinated. So hooray, hurrah for our little ones. Again, these are some of the highest rates in Essex County. So kudos to our residents. Speaking of which, we, as Talia had mentioned, we are offering a free Moderna booster clinic for adults ages 18 and up, starting this Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. and then on Saturday, December 3rd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please note that these are before the holidays and when you're getting together with family and friends. So we strongly encourage everyone to come out and get this free booster. Reservations are required, so please visit our website or call us to reserve a slot. It should be known that bivalent boosters administered is 8.8%, so only 8.8% of adults in New Jersey, or excuse me, of all eligible populations have received the bivalent booster. So we need to increase that number. The highest booster rates were among ages 65 to 79 years of age, followed by the 50 to 64-year-olds. In Maplewood, 18% of eligible Maplewood residents are boosted with the bivalent booster. So again, that's above the state average.
Ms. Davenport, could I
Yes.
interrupt you for a second and go back to that?
Yes,
Could-
ma'am.
Could you clarify, because I think, at least speaking for myself, I've had 3 booster shots. So is this a booster I've already had, or, because it's kind of unclear, I think, to the public as to which booster is which, and I just had one a month ago, so is this a new one? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay. Right. This is a really good point. Before, we had a monovalent booster, right? So it only, it did not have the Omicron virus strains in the vaccination. Now they've come out with an Omicron booster, which is bivalent, and so provides more coverage based on those variants that we saw. So it should be more protective. Whatever your vaccine booster that you get, it should be 2 months from your last booster dose, whether that be your primary or a booster. And that's what the CDC recommends, 2 months from your last booster or primary series dosage. As we go into the fall and winter season, and with all of these variants, it behooves everyone to get this booster in preparation. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I just think there's not as much information as there once was out there in, you know, in common speak language. Like nobody, I venture to guess that almost nobody knows which booster it is, you know, the different variants and everything. So I think what you just said about the 2 months between boosters. So after 2 months, people should be encouraged to go get the next booster that's available.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Again, it's in preparation for the fall and winter months as we go into this flu COVID season when we're more indoors. And because of these variants that keep changing, this vaccination booster should help. Just want to make mention that in our neighboring town of South Orange on November 9th, the Jesby House will also be offering free health screenings, COVID-19 vaccines, flu shots, if anyone wants to go. They serve children 5 to 17 and adults 18 and over. So again, this is great for anyone who does not have documentation or insurance. None of that is required to attend. So in partnership with our colleagues at the Partnership for Maternal and Child Health of Northern New Jersey, strongly encourage anyone to take advantage of another great health community service. And it's free. As for animal control services, I know that there's been a lot of questions recently regarding what we are planning to do with animal control. Since St. Hubert's was our main provider for animal control services, and they are ending their contract as of December 31st. So I just want to say that we are actively looking for an animal control service provider. St. Hubert's has ended their contract for field services for 19 towns within the state of New Jersey. We should find someone before the end of the year. And just want to make a clarification that St. Hubert's, while they are ending their field services in New Jersey, are still providing services such as adoptions. They'll take surrendered pets from residents if a resident has in need of surrender of a dog or cat, and they will aid residents if they need help with providing for food and supplies for their loved pet. So they are still available, and in New Jersey, they're just no longer doing field services at this time. And we still hope to use them as, look to them for residents as a resource. Lastly, I just want to bring your attention to an ordinance that is coming up. As the mayor had mentioned, the health department is requesting an update to the public recreational bathing licensing and inspection ordinance of 2932-18, which was passed in 2018. So we're just revising it. As the mayor had mentioned, the definition for a public recreational bathing facility is essentially any facility that is open to the public, a public swimming area, for example. So we have 5 public recreational bathing facilities that we inspect annually. So what are the changes to the amendments? One is just that we formally adopt the state code for public recreational bathing, that we clarify that these facilities will be licensed and inspected annually, that licensing initial fee is $150 and an annual licensure requirement of $150. And noncompliance with the state regulation would result in a fine. So I'll end my slide there and happy to answer any questions. And is one last thing I wanted to request of the Township Committee and the Board of Health is West Caldwell Health Department has asked us to partner with them. Since we have a fridge and a freezer bought through our grant, we are able to hold the Omicron Moderna booster. It has to be held at a specific temperature. Since this county is closing, our colleagues in West Caldwell don't have a way to get the vaccine. And since we are provided with a certain surplus, we said that we could loan it to them, and they would provide us with the information on their homebound residents that they're providing it to. I'm requesting of the Board of Health if Mr. Desiderio can review the MOA on behalf of the Health Department.
And your consent to entering to an agreement with the requested town to provide the service. If someone would make a motion, if that's acceptable.
I guess I need a little clarification about what we're moving. Are we merely providing them the doses, or are we also assisting in their homebound vaccinations?
No, they have nurses who will do that. They just need the vaccination dosages.
Okay. In that case, I'll move it.
Second it.
Thank you.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Thank you. That is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Health Officer Davenport. As always, a very fulsome report. At this point, I open up the floor to my colleagues for any questions of our health officer. Comments or concerns?
Going
Go
back
ahead.
to Ms. Jeffers' report, I just wanted to see, are you going to be reaching out to, in particular, our seniors population in regards to the transportation issue? Because I've not had a whole lot of success in Trenton. There's just nothing to be done about the fact that our train station in town is inaccessible for many of them that have mobility issues. So hopefully
Yes.
there's gonna be space left in there for that.
Yeah, so we're in the process of so when inquiries come in, we do the research to see if Essex County have any transportation that we can, rely on. I know with certain transportation, the wait times may be too long, it's very hard to get an appointment. Therefore, certain seniors may be relying on private transportation services, ambulatory services that cost. So we are definitely trying to see if we can have new partnerships with transportation. I previously sat on the Senior Advisory Committee, so I know that is a big issue, ongoing issue. So I'm definitely willing to work with them just to get their ideas to what they need and how we can move forward in providing transportation that is reliable, safe, and inclusive to everyone.
And I don't know if there's any thought that's been put into possibly having our own township senior transport, but having a bus that maybe kneels, because some of even the transportation in the van to the various senior activities, there have been incidents where people have been caught either falling into the van or caught falling out of it by another member, because even climbing the van steps is prohibitive for some folks.
Okay.
I believe we're going to hear from engineering that they're going to put a request in for a handicap van in our community development block grant money.
Oh, good.
And we usually have the hearing in December, at our 2 meetings in December.
Thank you
And
for
Ms.
that.
De Palma would be coming to do that.
Yep, and I have a meeting, Ms. Kripe, with NJT next week. And I have a laundry list. At the top of the list is this. And I will report back at the next TC about that meeting.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And Ms. Jeffers, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we will open the, have the public have an opportunity to address the Board of Health. Mr. Waltz?
I see no one, Mayor.
No hands up. Okay, then we will close the public comment period for the public to the Board of Health. And I move that we adjourn this Board of Health and meet again on December 6th at 7:30 PM again.
Second,
Ms. Adams,
yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes,
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to introducing a couple of ordinances. Actually, we have 3. We'll start with ordinance number 3072-22. Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor. Item number 8, introduction of new ordinances. Ordinance number 3072-22 is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 3055-22. This ordinance will reduce the distance within the Maplewood Village Special Improvement District between cannabis micro businesses to 100 feet as measured from the primary entrance of each business.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And the public will have an opportunity to address us with respect to this ordinance at the next Township Committee meeting when this ordinance will be up for adoption. That's November 14th. I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on November 14th.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
yes,
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Ordinance number 3073-22.
Yes, Mayor. Also on introduction, item 8B, ordinance number 3073-22 is an ordinance to revise number 2932-18, requiring licensing of public recreational bathing facility as required by the New Jersey Administrative Code 826. This ordinance will revise the requirements for the licensing of public recreational bathing facilities within the Township of Maplewood.
Thank you. Health Officer Davenport walked us through this ordinance, what it would do and what it means. I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a public hearing to be held on November 14th.
Second,
Ms. Adams,
yes.
Ms. Kripe,
yes,
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And one more for introduction tonight, ordinance number 3074-22, please.
Yes, Mayor. Item 8C, an ordinance revising the zoning map of the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will revise the zoning map of the Township of Maplewood as prepared by the Township Engineer, Paul J. Kittner, P.E.
Can we get a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on November 14th, 2022.
Second,
Ms. Adams,
yes.
Ms. Kripe,
yes,
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Thanks again, Ms. Fritzen. Reports from departments, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction. We have a submitted budget report to show the public where we are with respect to our current budget as of September 2022. That's all we've got there. And this moves us into administrative reports. Let's welcome interim Administrator Schuster.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things to touch on this evening. First and foremost, I want to personally thank Acting Chief Sally and everyone that was involved in the memorial service for Chief Duvall. I'm not even going to attempt to thank everyone that participated. It was an extremely large event. It took quite a bit of coordination amongst many different agencies and jurisdictions. So I want to pass along my thanks to him and his entire team. And I've already asked him to pass along those thanks to everyone involved. Turning to financial matters, I was informed that the exit meeting was completed for the 2022 audit, the 21 audit. You should be receiving that information, hopefully at your next meeting, to get a draft report for your review. And finally, on the budget, there is a deadline out there for department heads to get their initial budgets into me of November 7th. There's also a draft timeline of the budget process, which department heads are reviewing right now. And as soon as that review is complete, which will be done in a couple of days, I'll be sending it off to all of you for your review. My goal is to have a process put in place so we all know when we're meeting, what we're doing, and have plenty of time to go through this and create a budget that is on time. There are going to be, of course, some issues along the way, as there is with any budget. We'll talk through those and figure out what decisions we have to make to produce an acceptable budget. Other than that, I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Are there any questions for my colleagues for Mr. Schuster? Okay. Thank you, sir, again, and thank you personally for all of your leadership, coordination, and support for the important memorial service of our dearly departed Police Chief Jimmy Duvall. That was a logistical big deal, and you handled it seamlessly.
Thank you. I give all credit to others, though. They did the heavy lifting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this moves us into Township Attorney Desiderio. Mr. Desiderio, any report?
I don't, Mayor, but Ms. Barnett usually goes next. I don't know if you want to do that or not.
Yes, she does. I'm sorry. I should have added this in here so to remind myself. Assistant Administrator Barnett, are you available? Do you have a report?
Yes, it's fairly brief this week, Mayor. So as Interim Administrator Schuster was saying, we have started planning for the budget process, and then I did have the opportunity to attend that 2021 audit exit conference with CFO Kaloje the other day, and we were able to go through with the auditors from Samuel Klein both what went well and what we can improve upon next year, and we're able to come up with some concrete goals going forward that I believe we'll be sharing with you in the coming weeks. As Health Officer Davenport mentioned, we are coordinating between Health and Administration to procure animal control services and fulfill that statutory need for next year. So that's been a focus of the past week. And then I believe that something else I've been working on, Committeewoman Adams will be talking about in her report, and that is some changes coming to recycling in the near future. And then last but not least, I'm excited to share that we've been coordinating with the health department and in particular Ms. Jeffers to coordinate a CPR training for staff to provide the training on this life-saving service so that both in terms of serving the public and in terms of serving one another, we have that opportunity to step in if needed and save a life. And that's going to be something that we're reaching out to employees to schedule training through PD sometime early next year. And that's all I have for today, Mayor.
Thank you, Assistant Administrator Barnett. That's great. If I may ask, and then I'll ask my colleagues if they have any questions. Any progress on the SOMA 2 Towns for All Ages interview process? Are we getting closer to having someone?
So we weren't able to find times that aligned last week for everybody, primarily just with us being kind of not in traditional hours, Thursday and Friday. There wasn't time for everyone to match up, and we want to make sure that the management committee members are able to attend these interviews and get to meet everyone. So we're rescheduled for this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that'll be wrapped by the end of this week.
Terrific. Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions for Assistant Administrator Barnett? I see none. Okay, thank you again. Mr. Desiderio, just to be clear, do you have a report? I don't want to cut you out like I did Ms. Barnett.
No, Mayor, I do not, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Township Clerk Fritzen, we are 1 week away from a major consequential election. I'm sure you have an update about that.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So, yes, I wanted to report that, the clerk's office is working pretty diligently on two large scale events coming up, both Election Day and Veterans Day, our program there. So, first I wanted to report that we do have early voting in New Jersey. We do have opportunities for Maplewood residents to participate in early voting. It started on October 29th and it runs through Sunday, November 6th, up on our website, all over as far as flyers, informational leaflets. We've been posting everywhere with the locations for early voting, and you can simply also call the office of the township clerk for that information. Well, you cannot do early voting in the township of Maplewood. You certainly can in locations that are all on the fringes of Maplewood. So, you probably noticed that we have about 5 or 6 signboards up already. They've been up for quite a while, just to help voters remember that, their polling place may have changed in the last year and a half from one school to another due to school construction. You're probably not voting at the church anymore. You're voting at the Woodland, that kind of thing. So we've had all of those in place for over a week. And we have some walkthroughs coming up of various polling locations in Maplewood, just to make sure that they're efficient and everything will be in place for Maplewood voters to have a smooth election day here. So my other item is the upcoming, a few days later, 3 days later to be exact, would be our Veterans Day program, which we take a lot of pride in here in Maplewood, and it will be the first indoor program that we've had for our veterans in, I guess, in 3 years. So we won't be doing the drive-through in the back parking lot. We'll be back to inside the Maplewood Municipal Building, and that's on Friday, November 11th at 11 a.m. sharp. Refreshments, AKA lunch, with all the fixings, will be served. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any questions from anyone for Ms. Fritzen? Okay, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Looking forward to the election. Looking forward to having it be over, frankly. I'm sure we all are to a certain extent. All right, reports from elected officials, and we'll start with Committee Member Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, I'll be giving right now an update for the recycling. So this has been, just to refresh the memory of the community, we hired a consultant, a joint consultant with the Township of South Orange, to get some advice and some guidance and have them do some research to try to change our recycling practices or somehow streamline them to try to get more than one bid for collection, for example, which is a regular annual problem for most municipalities in New Jersey. So it's been a long process, almost 2 years in the making, of a subcommittee that Mr. McGehee joined me on for working on how we can not only be more financially, fiscally responsible or try to save some money, but also to be more environmentally thoughtful and create a cleaner stream, if you will. So just so everyone knows, the commingling, the single stream is what we do now. So Maplewood residents, every week you get your recycling picked up at the curb with everything that's recyclable mixed in. That has proven to be a problem. We get fined on a regular basis by the end user where our hauler takes our recycling. We are regularly fined a little bit for that on a weekly basis because of the contamination in our recycling that gets brought to their facility. Contamination includes unclean recycling product, things that aren't recyclable, like plastic bags, which thanks to our own ordinance and then the state statute, plastic bags are less of a problem than they used to be because they're no longer permitted as checkout bags. But those putting things that are not recyclable in the recycling container actually costs the township and therefore the taxpayers money. So we tried educating the public. It's not an easy thing to get that communication out there. So part of our work as a committee was to figure out ways to get a cleaner stream, hopefully fewer fines, if any. And we sent out 2 bids, one for the end user, the marketer, as we call them, that was awarded, will hopefully tonight be awarded to Bayshore. And the hauling will be hopefully awarded by resolution tonight to Basso for a 1-year contract. Bayshore's is a 2-year contract, if I'm not incorrect on that. Mr. Desiderio can correct me if I'm wrong. The advantage of Bayshore, and we met with both of them, both companies, just a couple days ago. What we're going to be asking the community to do is to put out different streams of recycling on different weeks. Basically, every week we'll have recycling pickup. 1 week will be paper and cardboard. The following week will be everything else. So the good news is Bayshore takes everything as far as they take wet cardboard, so we won't, and wet paper. We will no longer, not only will that not contaminate the other commingled stuff, but we won't be getting fined for it. Bayshore also takes not only wet cardboard, they take shredded paper. We don't necessarily encourage that, but they do take it, which is something that we were getting fined for when it was in the recycling. So that's just yet another thing. So they also accept plastics number 1 through 7, and we will get the communication out to you as to whether or not we are going to still limit from our perspective to 1, 2, and 5, or if we will allow residents to put out 1 through 7. And as you can see, this can get complicated. So we are finalizing the decision on that because the cost of hauling all those extra numbers of recycled plastic can make it less cost effective to do that. So this will all be, and let me, if I can find my screen that I had something up, I will share my screen if it allows me. Hold on. We'll be getting a flyer out like this sooner than later. We'll be using this, and Ms. Barnett and I have been working on trying to get different text message alerts. We will be heavily promoting pretty much every aspect of this. In Maplewood, by the way, we'll be doing pickup Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays of every week. It will be in, and then we will advertise which week you put out what. So as you can see, this is from Bayshore. This is what they tell you to not put in there anymore. So we'll be doing something similar to this to get out to the public. But we're making it as clear as possible, but you know, change takes time and change is hard sometimes. So this will be an ongoing process. Hopefully text messages will be out every week in Nixle form or whatever we land on in January to identify to the public, this is your week for, you know, number plastics, this is your week for paper. So it's really only 2 streams. And everything can still go in one. People may be wise to get a container, a separate container, so they can start gathering their junk mail and stuff and then put that out in a container on the week that it's provided. So it's a lot and we understand that, but it will hopefully be much better for the environment. More things will get recycled instead of just put in the incinerator, poisoning residents in this case, in last case, it was Newark. So we're working hard on this and trying to do better, and also trying to save some money. So that is everything I can think of for now, recycling, in case you haven't had your head explode yet. I just want to remind everybody too, there's one issue to vote for this year, and that's our democracy. It's vitally important that people, regardless of, and it's a clear which side of the aisle is working to save our democracy. So I will be unabashedly proud to say vote blue and don't forget to vote. And just thank you to Mr. Schuster and Acting Chief Sally and everybody for an incredibly moving service for Jimmy on Friday. And that's my report, Mayor. I'll take any questions on recycling, by the way.
Are there any questions from colleagues?
Just have one. Let's make sure that you probably have talked to DPW, but I guess we have to realign how we collect stuff at the yard, right?
Yeah, we're talking about that. That may or may not have to be realigned. We're still in conversation about it.
Okay.
One other thing, just from having conversations with different residents and my own personal experience, are the, I don't want to say the hauler's going to be gentle with our containers, but are they? If they're going to wreck them, I mean, part of the problem that we ended up having with the wet newspaper, which always made me angry, was because the fact most of our can tops got destroyed because they just throw them into the street when they finished with them. They got broken by the company. Are they going to?
I can't guarantee that, but we have met with them, and I know they've been fined before, right, Mr. Desiderio, with regard to their performance. But yeah, it's
we had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago, Bailey.
And I just met with them too. We will be meeting with them pretty regularly.
And they were fined $3,000 for the last 3 months. Unlikely, Ms. Crichton.
Understood. I just wanted to put it on record that I felt like we got charged for things that weren't our fault. We ended up being charged for things that were directly their fault.
That's not actually what we're charged for, but that does impact our residents directly, and that's not cool. And that's what, so they get charged here, but as far as what gets sent and what gets charged for, yeah, with regard to it rained and things were in there, but the lid was broken. I get that. But yes, we will luckily at least not be charged for that aspect. Yeah, it's a lot. So
it is a lot, and we want to thank you for your efforts. This is very technical.
I know, I'm sorry. It's hard to.
No, don't be sorry. Actually, we're applauding your efforts in navigating this technical stuff. And frankly, you know, we don't have a lot of options either, right? But we look forward to the committee's continued work. And thank you for working on getting communications out, because this is going to be a re-education, and it looks like you're well underway in that regard. So thank you. We're going to go next to Deputy Mayor DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three things. Let me get the first one up. Sorry. Want to share I circulated questions that we used last year for the demographic survey of boards and committees. This will be our 5th year of doing it. So please take a look at this. We're up to 12 questions as it is. For purposes of comparison, we really can't change too much, but if you see words that need to be changed or something that's not right, please get back to me. I would like to send this out starting next week, so you can get back to me on that. Number 2, I just want to update the community that we've been very successful with our FEMA reimbursement for Tropical Storm Ida. We are up to about $2.5 million, which includes a grant of $750,000 for our resiliency measures at the library. So we're still working on trying to squeeze out as many pennies as we can from FEMA. And third, the spray park in Maple Crest Park. We had said last year when we put out a schedule, actually, I'm sorry, earlier this year in April, we put out a schedule that we would be up and running by Memorial Day next year. That's not going to happen. We're now at best going to be ready, hopefully by July 4th. The firm that we had working for us, they had some difficulties with some of their personnel. So we had a meeting last week. We regrouped. We got it back on track. Now our only worry, quite honestly, is the supply chain. So we want to get this out, have the bids out on the street this year so that we can get some of these things ordered so that when the weather is conducive to building again in the spring, we'll be ready to move forward. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeLuca. Are there any questions for the Deputy Mayor from colleagues here? I see none. Thank you, sir, again. And that brings us to Committee Member Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. As Deputy Mayor DeLuca alluded to, there was a meeting with not only Rec and Human Services, but our Referee Advisory Committee, and many of the questions that needed to be answered were answered at that meeting. We have a lot of things coming up on the slate in regards to athletics. We're in desperate need of chaperones for the ski club. So if you are interested or a skier yourself and would like to be an adult chaperone, from the people I know that have participated in the ski club, it's a great adventure. It's a wonderful way to get to know some of the youth in our community, and you'd be providing a service to the township. So please reach out to Director Mancuso at Town Hall and let her know if you can be a chaperone for the ski club. Pickleball painting went down in Walter Park, and we are ordering bocce equipment. So hopefully when the weather warms up, or even now while it's a little not snowy and icy, that you can get out there and play a little bit. We are looking for a little direction from the Township Committee in regards to elections. And it's not just the Rec Advisory Committee, also Pool Advisory as well as Seniors Advisory. There are in the current bylaws, there's a lot of language around every committee that's totally different than every others. So the suggestion from all three that I met with in the last couple of weeks have been like, can we codify something and have one standardized election process that all committees use, within the factoring the idea around term limits and what the role each person in the committee goes on. We know that there has to be some fine detail with each committee, but there's some core stuff that isn't uniform across the township, which causes some confusion and a little bit of angst in our committee. So that was one universal suggestion. Board of Health Director Davenport actually addressed everything in the Board of Health, so you don't need to hear anything from there other than the fact we're looking at trying to find new ways of supporting our social worker in regards to how we take care of the assistance with our community of housing insecure folks. In particular, like laundry vouchers, possibly even getting an arrangement with the city bike or some kind of pilot for transportation so that folks who maybe depend on getting into jobs or whatever along the corridors that don't have public transportation, or at least a strong public transportation network, can find a way to get to and from jobs so that they have a better opportunity to be able to pay for affordable housing in our community. The Thanksgiving food distribution thing is coming up, and hopefully we will have enough support from our community partners. It's been a joy getting phone calls and emails from people in the community who are offering, I can do 10 families, I can do 20 families. It's great. So hopefully we will have something available to disseminate to our community of families very soon. And finally, Pool Advisory. We are looking to start a discussion around a foundation, as we are really taking the idea around a municipal pool being something available for all members of our community, and a way of funding and financing that can be done through tax dollars. We have to look at alternative sources of funding. And so a Friends of the Pool call may go out, or at least the exploratory committee may begin within the next couple weeks. Also, as a report from the pools, we wanted to let you know, and our director Mancuso will get back to us with the detail, but 75 non-members of the pool took advantage of the swim lessons, and not a single person on the wait list was left behind. So not only did all of our members get access to the swim lessons that they needed, but we were able to accommodate 75 children in our community who would not have otherwise had opportunities to learn how to swim. And that is my report. Oh, besides what Nancy mentioned, please vote. And as a woman of color, and as a Southerner, and as someone who has lots and lots of friends and loved ones who are identified as LGBTQ, too many people have fought and frankly died to give us the right to vote. So please get out, vote always, and vote smart. Don't vote against your interests. Don't listen to the talking heads. You have been given a beautiful brain, use it, and vote for what you need. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Committee Member Cripe. That's a great report. I love to hear some of the things that are happening around the pool. I've always talked about a Friends for the Pool. I think we need to do that. Long overdue, and we certainly have sponsors in town, I think, that would be interested in joining that. So kudos to that. And I think the other issue that you mentioned about some of the other needs and vulnerabilities, we need to discuss as a township committee, whether, assistance for that comes out of the 2% that we get back from cannabis retail businesses in town, or if it's built into community host agreements going forward with other businesses that will be opening up in our community. So we need to have that discussion. I'll put it on for discussion soon so that we can kind of get some direction, because you're right. Our health department has come up with some really good ideas based on the data that they have about vulnerabilities that exist in our community. All right. I have only one item. I think people covered a lot of the other stuff that.
Mr.
Yes.
Desiderio.
One thing, Ms. Cripe raised an issue about some consolidation or language with regard to ordinances. Is it the will of the committee that I should meet with Ms. Cripe and we should go through those and bring some of those back to you? Most of them have been, were handcrafted for reasons, but if you want me to do that, Ms. Cripe, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
if everyone's on board with it, I'll happily meet with you, Mr.
Okay,
Desiderio.
reach out to me, give me some dates, Ms. Cripe, and we can do that. And of course the ordinances you refer to.
And can I just make a comment about the Friends and the Foundation? They're two different animals. And I would just suggest you might want to speak to the Friends of the Library about how they set it up, because it's a different campaign, because you're raising money that you're basically spending every year, as opposed to the foundation in which you're trying to build an endowment. And if you want to go that route, the Library Foundation has a very good consultant that we could probably get at a reasonable rate to come in and just have a first meeting with people to talk about a foundation. But it is really two different things. So I think you have to settle on what you want to do.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Good advice. So I have one item, and it's a light one, but an important one. I want to highlight the work of Local Troop 5, and in particular, Eagle Scout Grant Hubner and his mentor, Mr. Stuart Booth, or Bozy, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing your name, Stuart. Grant took it upon himself to working with Public Works, working with Historic Preservation, working with the Memorial Park Conservancy, and with many others. Grant took it upon himself to refurbish our message boards in town. So the next time you're taking a walk or a jog in the park, you'll notice a big difference. And we just want to highlight that accomplishment. Again, our young people stepping up and serving the community with their talents and their strengths. And that is a beautiful thing. So thank you, Troop 5. And as others have said, next Tuesday's election is truly consequential, not just at the midterm level where there's so much at stake. I won't repeat what was said already, but here at the local level too. You see the things that we're talking about. You see the things that we're discussing. This is where it matters. Local elections are critical. They affect your daily life, our daily lives so intimately and directly every single day. So we hope that people will exercise their right to vote. They will, their vote is their voice on local matters, especially the upcoming school board election. There's I really want to applaud all of the candidates who have put themselves up for election and who have been out there hustling for votes and meeting and talking and shaking hands and submitting to debates. And it's really an honorable thing. It really, really is. And we encourage people out there to have debates and discussions that are respectful and not personal attacks against any school board candidate, because what they're doing is truly courageous and admirable. And I wish all of them continued perseverance as we get closer to the finish line when things tend to get even uglier. So let's not be divisive. The things that we all want are almost the same. And we really, really are talking about our students here. Let's support our students. Let's put them first and let all the other stuff not be front and center or important. We don't have a discussion tonight, any discussion items. So I'm gonna move our consent agenda in its entirety, items 13A all the way through 13P as in Peter. Do I have a second?
Second,
Ms. Adams,
yes.
Ms. Wright,
Yes, with an extension on the May 3rd minutes.
Oh, right. You weren't able to join us then. Sure.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. This brings us to our second public comment period for any subject matter. Mr. Waltz.
Good evening again, Mayor and Township Committee. We'll now begin the second public comment portion of the meeting on any subject matter. If any meeting attendee would like to address the committee, please use the raise your hand function. We will allow you 3 minutes to convert you to a panelist. Anybody like to address the committee at this time? I see no one, Mayor.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Waltz. We will close the second public comment period, and I move that we adjourn this evening and meet again in the same manner on November 14th at 7:30 p.m.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Adams,
yes.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
It's
Yeah.
not 9:30 yet. Bye.
What?
Good night, everybody. We did it.